And so I want to welcome you here. We got 31 of us. If you have this book, we're going to go through it together. I have it open. If you don't have it and you want to take notes, that's no problem. There's not a lot. Um, if you're a note taker, it'll help. But if you're not a note taker, that's no problem. And we're going to be interactive a little bit and going through this with under an hour. That's my plan. But let's jump. Let's jump right in. And this is our financial literacy campaign. The idea of financial literacy really came up about 10 years ago, where the consumer was making mistakes. Even if they bought the right insurance, they made a mistake. If they bought the wrong insurance, they made a mistake. If they bought the right investment or the wrong debt, and it came down to, it wasn't that we needed more products. It came down to the idea that we probably actually needed to have a better understanding of what was available. And so, being part of our campaign, we are an open platform. So if someone wants to get started here, we have all the training inside of our platform, as opposed to sending you to university. We do all the training inside. And so welcome to our workshop. Every day we are flooded with information, and every day we are, many of that information we get is from unlicensed people or very narrow experience. I think the common experience in finance is that someone who does taxes is really good at the tax side of things, but someone who does investments is really good at investments, and someone that does insurance is really good at insurance, and so on down the line to a lawyer, to everything. And we want to be able to put this together so you could do your own financial planning, and you could become, not your own advisor, but your own, really, you're taking care of yourself. Where I don't want to feel at the end of my life that everybody on earth is taking care of me. I want to feel like I'm the one taking care of myself and taking care of other people as well. So we want to do a very holistic approach. By the way, as we go through here, I do see the chat, and the way the meeting is structured, we're able to chat with each other. Oh, so you're able to send me a message and I will see it, but nobody else will see it. So if you have a question or you want me to pause, feel free to pause. You're able to unmute and just ask the question, and then I can hear it and get the answer. The questions, if it's about our workshop, are very, very manageable. But if it's a question about your own personal finances, the best thing to do is to talk to the person that invited you out. So what we're going to talk today about is, what are your goals? What are you looking for? What are you looking to get out of this thing? And when we look at your goals, we're going to look at the financial foundation and how this can be a tracking method to get your goals, or how you should be setting your goals. And then what's the wealth formula? How is it going to help? And time and inflation on some of your assets. So it's going to be more of an intro, and then we're going to go through, after this, there's 5 more workshops that dive into these in a little bit more detail. But the concept of money. So, think back I remember the first time I earned money, my parents were painting a fence and they said, hey, we'll pay you like $40 if you help us for a whole weekend. And I remember my first paycheck, I scooped ice cream for it. And the first time someone taught me not so much the value of money, but the concept of money outside of just work and spend, was I was competing as an athlete at an Olympic event and in Texas, in Olympic trials actually. And someone was reading a purple book about investing, and we started talking, and I knew nothing about investing or what that looked like. It kind of sounded like gambling to me, not saving. And I ended up buying that book and enjoying it, and starting to look for more answers when it came to managing my money. But when it comes to saving money, you should be saving for a goal. You should be looking, hey, what is the most common thing we save for? Maybe school, vacation, wedding, home, retirement. And if you have savings, many times mentally that savings has a purpose. And so then where we save depends on our purpose. So when it comes to goal setting, if you're saving and building your future without solid goals, you're more likely to change your goals and say, I don't want that. I don't want this. I saved 10 grand, but I don't really need 10. I need 3. And so when setting goals, we want to have different goals with different time frames. In our workbook, Or if you have a notepad, we're going to get a chance to write down some goals and maybe make them real of if you are saving money or you are saving money that you're going to spend in less than a year. Some things that I've saved up for that took less than a year, maybe saved up, bought myself a nice couch, bought a new car, bought different things where it was under a year I could save. Midterm is 1 to 5 years. Typically things like pay off my car, pay off my debts, pay off my house, writing some of these things down of, hey, what do these want? And long-term goals. What do I want to have happen long-term? Who do I want to become? And by the way, some of the people in this workshop are studying with our platform to become a better professional. And some of them are just brand new intro in, and we want to be able to talk to both of you. But at the end of the day, the goal must be paired with an action. And when you're going through with a client and asking them their goals, it's very difficult to ask someone directly. Because if I ask, for example, what are your goals? Nobody has an answer. But if I ask a question like, and I get better at asking questions, and I say something like, hey, if you're saving $300 a month, what would you save it for? And they say, oh, retirement. Oh, okay. Or my kid's education. Or if I say, hey, if you had a scratch and win ticket and you won 20,000, what would you spend that on? And they say right away, replace the car or renovate the house. And you start figuring out if you had more money, what would you do with it? Well, that's the start of a goal. It's the start of some ambition and the start of thinking, if I could do this, then I would do that. And so take a minute on page 6 and write down a goal to say, maybe I want to be debt free. Maybe I want to upgrade my house or renovate my house. And most goals we have are actually not big deals. They're just stepping stones. Say, okay, I want to save up and I want to be able to hire a house cleaner once a month, or I want to, put myself in a position where life has less work and more enjoyment, more time with kids, or whatever it is. This is the worksheet when we go through a personal financial strategy or when you go through with an advisor. And we ask, if you had some money, what would you save for? And there's many, many answers, whether it's saving for a baby, buying a purse or a getaway. If you're saving, if you're going to go travel with us to Turkey, maybe you want some spending money, but it depends what you're saving for. And so we look at how much do you need to save? Well, if you're looking at retirement and basic financial planning, in page 80 of our Saving Your Future book, it says you need about 10 times your income in life insurance and about 20 times your income by the time you retire. When you look at a needs analysis or a personal financial strategy, you can look at different ways to figure out how much you need to save. And that way we're not just saving randomly, we're saving with some kind of intentions. Here is if your goal is $1 million. So we're assuming your goal is 1 million, and how much do you need to save to hit $1 million? So if you're 25, the rule of thumb is you have to be avoiding credit card debt. Because if you have a credit card of $6,000, you got to pay $300 a month to pay that thing off. So if you can avoid credit card debt for the first 10 years of your working career, you could save $286 a month. This is at 8%. At 35 years old, you have to stay out of the car loan business. You have to learn how to buy a car with cash. I like to have a car with cash because I want to work for things I want. I don't want to work for things I have. So I want to buy my car with cash. And then here at age 45, maybe you need to be in a position where there's no more mortgage payment, where you earned enough money over the last 10 years from 35 to 45, doubled up on your mortgage payments and paid it off. And looking at, okay, maybe, what does this actually look like? But $1,700 a month can put you to $1 million. Or maybe the kids go back to school and there's extra money coming in. And so when you look at, what your goals are, if you wait till you're 55 and you have 10 years, you got to save about $5,000 a month. And that's where you need no job. You need a business to be able to fund those kind of money. But when almost all goals come with a payment plan, either pre-goal, you're saving money, or after the goal, you're paying back debt. Most things come with a kind of payment plan. And so, let me go back here for a second. We have this QR code will take you to our World System Builder website. And our website actually puts you in a position where you have a calculator and you can figure out what your goals are. If you say, hey, I want to be able to put a down payment on a house, I want to do this or that, that will take you there. It's on worldsystembuilder.com under workshops, and you can look at financial calculators. When we have goals, we usually have things that happen. Now, life happens, broken down car, loss of property. And so when we're looking at how to build a plan to reach long-term goals, I have a strategy called financial foundation. And we look at how do you think the financial foundation should be built. The first step is to ensure the things that would be a catastrophe. So some things I don't insure, for example, I don't insure my toothache. So I pay the dentist if I get a toothache. But if I pass away or if I got cancer or certain issues I want to make sure I'm getting paid on, I have insurance for those, my car insurance, house insurance. Once your insurance is in place, we look at controlling your debt and getting your debt into a good position. Now, some debt, if it's tax deductible and low interest, might be you want to pay it off quickly. Some is fine to be held for a long period of time. Oh, excuse me, I'm yawning. I have a new baby at home, 5 months, or not 5 months, 10 days old. So the baby's not sleeping every night. And so then I'm up too. And then we want to have some cash saved, building emergency cash, where many times emergencies start because of no cash. That's why we go into debt, or that's why we don't invest. So if we don't have cash, we go into debt, and we don't have any money to invest because we're paying off our debt. And then proper protection is really for catastrophes. And so we want to build our savings and grow our wealth. So the wealth formula, the financial foundation says you should do everything in the right order. Do this, then this, then this, then this. The wealth formula says you should do everything at the same time. So it's just a different way to look at it, where we have money, time. Oh, sorry, I was looking at X curve. I'm looking at the next slide. Let me go back. Wealth is a mathematical problem. You got to save money when you make money. So when you make money, it shouldn't be all for consumption. Then you're going to take some time and rate of return, inflation, and taxes. When we add or subtract all these together, we become wealthy. Those who save over time and have a definite goal typically become wealthy. Those who don't save typically don't become wealthy. It's very, very simple. The fact of, hey, how much every month did you want to put away towards a savings program or investment program? That's the money side. And then how long do you want to retire? And then the rate of return, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then inflation and tax. And so these are the concepts that we got to make sure we understand to be able to become wealthy. Money is in two ways. Either time is money, or I'm getting paid for my time or paid for my responsibility, or money makes money, where I'm investing my money and getting it back. So time can be for us or against us. Having a lot of time is advantageous, but even with time on our side, not using it can cost us. So here's two young people, two 25-year-olds. One guy saves $300 a month for 7 years, and then lets that run till 48 years old. Mr. Wait Longer doesn't do anything for 7 years, and then starts saving, and it takes him 17 years just to catch up to get past, at age 47, Mr. Start Early is still putting money, is still ahead. So it's 25,000 versus 61,000. And this is in our workbook if you're taking on page 10, that if you start earlier, you have a much better chance to become wealthier. And so when you look at the rate of return, for example, if you earn 6% on $100, it's a 6% rate of return. But we shouldn't think of rate of return of rate of growth per year. We should think of rate of return as how quick will your money double. So if I look at 6% rate of return, 72 divided by 6 would equal my years to money double. 72 divided by 4, my money doubles in 18 years. If 72 divided by 6, then my money doubles every 12 years. So now here at 10,000, I'm at 20, 40, 80, and 36 years. If I'm getting an 8% return, now I'm getting a little bit better, but it's actually a lot better difference. It's almost double my money. And if I can double every 7 years, I can add an extra doubling period to this whole thing. I'm at 309. And so the difference of two investors putting $10,000 in, and one invests in maybe a balance fund, one invests in something else at 8 and something else at 10, maybe an equity fund, or whether they're getting land or farmland or your own business, getting a better rate of return makes a big difference in your future. Looking at things like the fees and the performance, where we can review people's investments and say, we think that this investment you have has done, let's say, 6% over the last 10 and 20 years, maybe 30 years. Going forward, we think XYZ, maybe you should make a change, always depending on your age and your risk tolerance and kind of your relationship with the professional you're working with. If you put $100,000 into an account and in 9 years it doubles to $200,000, what is your rate of return on that money? 8%, because 72 divided by 8 equals 9. If you ignore paying the balance on your credit card, which you can only do if, for example, you put a $50 fuel bill and then you pay $50. So you're not actually paying it down, you're just servicing the interest. At 18%, how many years until your debt balance doubles? 4%. And then using the previous table, at a 10% rate of return, how much money would you have after 43 years? So if you have that 300,000 and it doubles, if you wait an extra 7 years to retire, you have over 600,000. So 10,000, given enough time, could equal 600,000. So when you look at money, when you make money, there should be some portion of that money that we don't save. And when you look at the time and how much time do I have where I say, hey, I am young, it's better to start when I'm young, but if I'm 50 or 60, maybe I need more time, so I got to push my retirement back further into the future to create the time. Or just change my goals. I think the rate of return is not a lot of people focus on it. I thought when I started my career, man, we have some good quality investments we could compare. We could look at a 20 or 30-year track record. And if someone's getting a 4%, and we could offer them double that, closer to 8. But a lot of people aren't looking for a rate of return, but I think they should be. I think they should be thinking, okay, what is my rate of return on this money? Inflation, you don't have much control over. So when you look at inflation, you control it a little bit with your votes. But a lot of times it's a notion that you have to battle against. It's like an invisible tax. Well, since 1958, the average inflation is 3.6. So in the 70s, if you bought a new home, it's $23,000. Now, it's not that homes went up in value a lot. It's inflation is the actual value of the dollar went down. And so if a 23,000, 20 years later, it's 123. And today a new home is around 700,000. Gas is going up a little bit. Loaf of bread is going up. Wages are even going up too because the value of the dollar is going down. But as Canada brings in more immigrants, the cost of the wages will actually go down because we have more workers. And so the more Canadians that are working, it's harder to get a bigger wage. And if people have more kids, I have 3, I'm doing my part, but a lot of people maybe have 1 or 2. And wages are kind of low at 55,000 compared to a home is 10 times your income. But In the 70s, your income was 20,000, but a new home was 23,000. So you can see a big difference between wages and a new home. Now, inflation over time, that at 3% doesn't feel like a lot. So if I buy a romaine lettuce for $1 per heart, and the next year it's $1.03. Well, no one's ever became poor over 3 cents. But here, over a 20-year period, if I'm spending $5, 5 years, it goes up by $16. And there's a compounding effect that in 20 years, the cost of living will double. So if people think cost of living right now is tight, give them 20 years. And so there's things you can do to combat inflation. For example, if you're renting a home, your rent will typically go up with inflation. But if you own a home, you can typically lock your mortgage payment in for 20 years. And in 20 years, you'll pay the same payment for 20 years based on interest rates. But if your payment's $1,000, it'll range around $1,000. So you can lock in your cost of living by buying a house so that in the future, once you pay off your house, there's no more cost of living. When I look at the purchasing power over 100 years, sorry, not over 100, $100, purchasing power over $100, is it going up, going down, or staying the same, where it's decreasing? Money has less value in the future than it does now. So based on inflation, in 20 years, you need about $181 to have the same value as $100 today. How much will I need to retire in 20 years? And how much I will need to retire for 20 years? So when you look at some of these questions, it's kind of disheartening a little bit. You say, well, I got to start taking ownership over my income, ownership over my life, ownership over my leadership skills and my responsibility, that I want to be in a position where I have a lot more control over my life. But inflation, here's how I think about the future of inflation. Are we going to have a government in Canada, maybe North America, that is okay printing a lot of money? Now, I think regardless of who you choose for the government, this is my opinion, they're going to overprint money. And I think that's true for most countries. They're not going to say, hey, we should tighten down, where what it looks like if we have no inflation is we have no government benefits. But I think as the government spends money, inflation happens. That's just how it is. And then lastly, we're going to talk about taxes and get some clarity here. On the tax side, there's really 3 categories when you're saving or when you're earning any kind of money. Most money is actually double taxed. So I get taxed when I earn it, which is taxed now. And then I also get taxed when I save and invest it and I grow it. And if I give it to someone else, they're going to get taxed too. So tax now means any earnings from the accounts, you pay tax that year. So that's typical of an interest or a dividend that's earned, but that's not sheltered in an RRSP or a TFSA or one of those registered accounts. Tax later refers to money that you put into an account. Many times you haven't paid tax on it, so it's pre-tax. And these accounts are going to be considered tax deferred, where later on when you spend the money, you're going to get tax on it. And tax advantaged means you generally won't pay tax when you withdraw money from your account. There's 5 areas I can think of in Canada that are tax advantaged. One is a life insurance payout. So let's say my wife dies, no tax on that death benefit. A TFSA, if I put money in there properly and it grows, there's no tax on that. My principal residence. Currently, if I sell my house, there's no tax on my principal residence. And the FHSA, which is a first home savings account. There's no tax if I pull it out to buy a home, but you have to be a non-homeowner to buy it. And the 6th one, does anyone know the 6th in Canada, tax-free, never taxed area you can get money? Lottery winnings. Lottery winnings are not taxed in Canada. So if you win the lottery, no tax. I work a little bit with a CRA auditor. He's a client of mine, and he says most of his audits are either drug dealers-ish, criminals, or lottery winners, because if you win the lottery, it's tax-free. It's not have to be reported. And let's say you go buy a big house for like $2 million and a nice car, and life is getting really good. The government thinks you're cheating on your taxes because you got to say, hey, no, I'm not cheating. I won the lottery. And they want to disclose that. But the five examples of tax advantage are TFSA, life insurance payout, FHSA, principal residence, and lottery winnings. Those are the five. So let's test your knowledge. So typical tax treatment. So this is a kind of a question. It's a trick question, because some accounts, you can look at the structure of the account, and then you can look at the registration of the account. So we got to kind of clear what we're looking at. So a savings account is a structure, and it's a tax now. If you earn money, typically it's $300 a year or more, they're going to pay tax on the interest you earn in your savings. Up to this year, people didn't earn a lot of money in their savings. The RRSP is a registration. You can have many different structures, mutual fund, ETF, savings account, in an RRSP. But when you put it in an RRSP, you don't get taxed as it grows. You get a tax refund when you put it in, and you get taxed later when you pull that money out. And then a mutual fund is a structure. It could be registered as a TFSA. It could be registered as a RRSP. But if it's non-registered, it's taxed now as it's earned. So a mutual fund earns money four ways: a dividend, a capital gain, interest, and possibly return of capital, which is not taxed. And lastly, a tax-free savings, not taxed. If you're confused, buy a tax-free savings because it's not going to be taxed. And you can always pull it out and move it somewhere else too. So when we're saving, we want to look at tax now. It's just a bucket where if you want to throw your money in the garbage now, you do tax now. Tax later, you throw your money in the garbage later. And tax advantage means you never have to throw your money in the garbage. You just don't get a refund early on. So tax later, I think a lot of people got sold tax later accounts, but didn't really understand the compounding effect of it. Where, let's say I put in $100 to an RRSP, I would get a tax refund for my $100. And if I do that every month for my whole life, I might save a lot of money. And if I passed away and I wasn't married, or I was pulling that money out, I would have to pay the tax rate at the time. So one of the funny things is, if I'm 40 now, what's the tax rate going to be when I'm 70 or 80? Well, it depends on, it might be higher, then RSP doesn't work as well. But if it's lower, then RSP can be a good advantage. So that we don't know the tax rate later. That's one of the problems of the tax later bucket. So when you look at the wealth formula, if you save $100 and it grows by 4%, this is on page 14. You save $100, and if it grows by 4%, you can get 4% at a lot of banks now. If you pay tax on that money, so banks pay interest, and interest is taxed as income. So if it's a 25% tax, you're going to pay $1 in tax. After tax, it's $103, which, because you have to factor in, okay, you got to pay my tax, but then after inflation, what's left is $100. So someone that is making 4% is actually not making money. They feel like they're making money because the price of the money goes up, but the value of the money stays the same. And there's a difference between the value of $100 today and the value of $100 in 2025, 2027, 2037. So the value of the money means, what can I buy with the money? And so you got to get at least 4% to beat taxes and inflation, if inflation is 3. So are you gaining or losing the money game? And when you look at what are we investing in, and one of the great parts about our campaign is we've coupled up always teaching with someone who's a licensed professional, and they can reach out to you and make a comparison so that you can say, what are the options out there, and what are my options? But if you're getting a good return, you're saving money, you got your right protection in place, debt is being managed well, emergency fund is rock solid, you got lots of cash, your investments are good. What does it mean for your family when you have enough money that you don't have any financial worries? And what does it mean that your children are understanding how money works? And I think the best way to teach children how money works is, one, to talk about money with them in a responsible way that they see you being responsible. That's it. I don't know another way that you could teach someone other than just acting it out. And so when you look at your short-term goals, your long-term goals, I think looking at a financial foundation and saying, hey, how does this fit into my life? How much cash do I have? How much debt do I have? How much insurance? What am I looking at for different situations? And putting yourself in a position where your financial foundation is rock solid, and there's a compounding to a good position as well. Just like if you're unhealthy and you slip and fall and you become less healthy, and you spend time in the hospital and get another disease and you get less healthy and less healthy and less healthy. Finance is the same way. It compounds upwards, though. It doesn't compound downwards. And so when you look at believing in your future and looking at what we teach, you can become financially independent. So we look at increasing your cash flow. When I first started, I felt it was very noble that someone approached me and said, hey, Daniel, we can help you make more money. I said, that would be incredible. I can make more money when I can, on the weekends, and try to figure this out. Spend less money and save more money. What this means is I still live in a smaller house, an average size house, I think. I drive 2 used cars. I'm not increasing my major expenditures. I'm just rebalancing my budget, increasing my savings, because spending less money allows me to keep the profits when I make profits. And then reduce your debt and your liability. So you can become debt-free. Once you're debt-free, you have very little debt payments. And once you have little debt payments, it allows you to enter the wealth formula and start saving money long-term. And then becoming your own money manager, engaging more in your investments, engaging more in what your options are, and becoming your own money manager when it comes to looking at your taxes, looking at your investments, looking at the risk you're taking, where nobody cares about your money more than you do. And my best clients are the ones that care. They say, hey, what are my options with this? Are there any other options? And we can compare and make changes. We talk about a clear financial goal of building a financial foundation and trying to get a way of surviving as a purpose, or money as a purpose, or going to work as a purpose, where having a life of purpose means you have a life that maybe serves others, or a life of maybe working with your church or working with your kids. But making money is not the purpose of life. Once your money is in order, you could go find that. No different than if you're not healthy, you got to get it healthy. But once you're healthy, you can actually move on and do other things. And I think you should expect to succeed, expect to win. I think financial independence is not a dream. It's just a decision. If someone says, I'm going to do the work to become financially independent. I'm sick of depending on other people financially. I'm sick of running out of money. I'm sick of budgets. I'm sick of, not having enough, or the anxiety that comes with, overextending. But I want to expect to win. And I think everybody can. I think finance is a wonderful thing that if you're young, if you're older, if you're in shape, out of shape, doesn't matter what country you come from, money is just attracted to someone who's responsible with money. And, one of the greatest miracles is that you can change your entire life by changing the way you think about your entire life. And a lot of times it's who you hang out with, who's influencing you. Some of the workshops like this, maybe you plug into, that we can maybe affect you in a positive way. And it could also be the social media. If you're scrolling, does that benefit you, or is that if I'm on social media, it's akin to my kids watching TV. Probably worse. There's lots of marketing, but I want to be able to control the way I think. And we have a track record. Here's a comment that someone saved their first million, and they're moving on to do more as well. But contact the person that invited you out. Send them a message. Give them a call. We have an open campaign that we're looking for people who are looking for us that think that they could build a business with us. That'd be a wonderful partnership. And work with a professional to help you improve your strategy. The other workshops we have are on proper protection, long-term goals, looking at your wealth and your estate and getting those documents in order. And I want to appreciate we spent about 40 minutes together, and I want to appreciate you helping me with my sound, and I want to appreciate you guys spending your afternoon with me. And I appreciate you guys' time. So if there's any questions, I have a few minutes, but most questions you want to send them to the person that invited you out. That's ideal. Good to see you, Florante.
Thanks, Daniel.
Good to see you. Gil, Brownie, Kamal. There's 2 Kamals. Good to see you guys. So thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Hey, thank you for coming out.
Thank you, Daniel. Bye.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel.
Yeah,
Bye,
thank you.
Daniel.